off with her.
I'm just kidding. I always get the guess when they come on. She looks like she's laying in her bed.
She may take offense if she says anything about,
Cameras are rolling, by the way. What do you have for this weekend? Anything? I mean, for this week's opening.
This week, yeah.
You have something?
Just odd thing I worked on the other day.
Okay, we want to talk about that?
Sure.
All right, here we go.
And everybody's heading north and all that.
You ready, Mike?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished on who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, we're going to talk to the Epona Mind Shoe representative, Sarah Turowski. She's also a farrier from Texas, and a whole lot more over there. We'll be discussing here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over to my far inside is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Well, I'm doing better now. The video portion skipped up a little bit, and I think
you want me to fix your computer for you?
I hit it with a hammer, and I think you know what it is? You know what it is, Mike? It's that stupid eclipse that's coming by.
That is it.
It's screwing up my screen. It's screwing up everything. My printer over there hasn't been working for the last, I don't know, it heard about the eclipse and said, okay, it's going to be the apocalypse now or something like that. So
one thing I have noticed talking about computer problems, I never have any involvement in computer problems unless I'm here.
Maybe it's you. Do street lights flicker when you walk down the streets, Mike?
Well, yes, but I guess the only time I would even be near a computer would be here.
Oh, what about your phone that you have to put on airplane mode every time?
Oh, I finally learned how to put it on airplane mode. And I learned when you zoom in and out, you can actually do it on the screen, not move the camera closer and further away.
Jesus. So what's been going on with you this week? You said you had a special thing you were working on?
Some of the event horses are starting to head north. We're coming up on the Land Rover, and then there'll be the extra ones that have come from up north will be heading back north. The other things are winding up. Vet calls are winding up. People that show through the summer are winding up. And I had a little problem with a horse that I got called out on. A knee problem. Damaged, beat up, calcifications.
The knee's the front part of
the knee's the front.
Okay.
Basically, what would be the wrist, but it's up here on the leg.
I gotcha.
Mm-hmm. On our friend over here, it's the top joint.
Peggy.
That we got part of on Peggy.
On Peggy.
Correct. But calcifications in the knee. Knee does not work quite like it should. When it opens more to the outside, flexes out from the body. Horse lands real outside in, and when it came in, was watching the horse as he starts picking up load, and that foot settles down. Then he kind of starts. You watch his body; he starts hopping off of it. So ended up taking a good old Curtis Hamilton plastic pad.
Oh, I almost thought you said I almost took my Curtis hammer and whacked it to the side.
Well, yeah, we did whack it. No, we wouldn't do that to a horse. You maybe, but not a horse.
Not me, no.
But just
too expensive.
Played with how we rotated that pad around to get that horse to come in and just stabilize the foot as it's coming into loading. And what was happening was the knee was kind of snapping in towards the body, and I think that at that point you were rubbing those calcifications together. So if you kept it, kind of rotated the pad to a 45 aimed out, that the horse would settle onto it and actually started trotting on it.
Now, my question is, always I ask.
Is this ideal? No.
No, I know. Outside of that.
As we get the horse happy, yes, we got to.
Okay, so you got the horse happy. What is this horse's job, and why outside of, was it being taken care of regularly? This could have been eliminated.
He is being taken care of regularly. The person who is taking him on is going to great lengths to make sure he is cared for.
Now, great lengths after you fix the horse or done this adjustment, or prior
to me getting involved, this person had taken this horse on as a retired horse.
Okay.
But because of damage in past history in the horse's life, we have problems with the knee, and doing what I did to the foot, is that an ideal, perfect situation for the foot? Probably not. But on the other end, getting the knee where it can function closer to normally without being painful every time that the calcifications get impinged.
So the horse is a lawn ornament. It's not working. It's not doing anything other than maybe trail riding or something.
He is an emotional support animal.
Well, good. He can fly on the airplane.
That's
Get
right.
The seat right next to me. Put the little vest on him with the little handle like the dogs have on their backs.
Right.
Don't pet me. I'm working right now, so I put that on
Yes,
the horse.
he's always working. He's an emotional support animal.
So how about, going to the grocery store, that'd be a mess in
He'll
itself.
go to the grocery store with you.
Put them in the front shopping cart where the little kids dangle their feet out. All right, guys, we got a big show to get into, lots to talk about, and we're going to talk to Sarah Torres. I already messed it up. Sarah Torres. Give me a second. Sarah
From
Turowski. Got it. Turowski. And I gave her all the props and stuff, and I was so proud that I have a friend that was Polish as well, and I was like, oh, it's this, and I messed it up. Anyways, we're going to talk to her, and she's a rep from Epona Mind Shoes. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Let's make sure she's still on the air. She hasn't left yet.
She's hung up on us. She doesn't want to talk to these fools.
She's like, I'm out of here. Those guys are nuts.
I've already listened to the show, so I already know.
She's talked to me already.
Hey,
and still came back.
That's our one listener in Texas.
That's right.
Turowski. God, am I saying it right? Turowski? For some reason, it doesn't sound right.
Think of Turowski.
Turowski. Turowski. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you have a question for Mike Stine, the way you get those questions in is to go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contacts. Ask him a question and fill out that little form. Put a physical address in there, and we'll mail you out a little prize pack for being part of the show. Just our way of saying thank you for joining us. And joining us here in the studio is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. And also joining us here in the studio, Sarah Turowski is joining us here in the studio, and I think I said that right. Did I say that right this time?
Yes, sounds good.
Well, thank you very much. Now, you are a farrier.
Yes, she is.
Yes, Sarah, you are a farrier. Yeah,
Yes.
this is a podcast, so you nodding the head doesn't really. Yes.
Nodding my head.
When they ask you if you want fries at the drive-thru, you just shake your head too.
That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. Well, probably nowadays with the cameras on the checkouts there. So you're a farrier, and now how long have you been a farrier? Because you look like you look very, very young to be a farrier. Because sometimes
That's good genetics. Okay?
good genetics.
You should see my parents. My dad does not look his age either, so it has to come from somewhere.
So what made you get into the farrier business? Now, we were talking prior to the show, you were talking about how this is like a male-dominated field. What were you intimidated by getting into it, or you were like going, no, I can sling with the best boys out there?
Well, I'm not trying to compete with the men. Just trying to find my piece into it. For necessity was the reason I got into it. I have my own horses. I actively ride. I had gotten into, and I hope that nobody holds this against me, but I got into the barefoot movement when, we're all saving these horses by making them barefoot the way nature intended them to. But once again, when I even bring up the fact of genetics, that's where a lot of things changed for me, was merely the fact that every horse can be barefoot, but not every horse can be comfortable barefoot. And this is where it's our responsibility to make them that way. So that's how I got into it, was wanting to get my horses moving correctly by being barefoot, when in turn I have at least 2 of my 5 that, in order to be sound and long-term soundness, they're in the Epona shoes.
Now, are you against having the shoes on to help the horse get to the barefoot point? Or do you believe that the horse, no matter what, should always be barefoot? For example, you have a baby horse, and you've taken that baby horse to, 1 year old, and it still doesn't have shoes on. Now you start riding the horse, you break the horse, so it's in year 2, year 3. Now you're starting to train the horse, and you're starting to see little odds and ends stuff that just your normal trimming and rolling of the front and back. I'm just regurgitating all the stuff that Mike's ever said to me. And you're like, well, we might need to put a pad on here. We might need to get a shoe on here because his collicular bone is not lining up with his vernicular bone, that type deal.
He sounds good, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
Trained professional, this guy.
Sometimes all you can eat buffet gets regurgitated too.
Oh God, Mike.
Oh.
So, I mean, are you against using outside sources like a pad or some kind of like I don't want to say a shim because that's basically the same thing, or aluminum shoes or anything like that to get the horse back to being barefooted? Are you against any of that, or you believe this is what we should do to the best of our ability to keep them barefoot at all times?
It's funny you ask this because my belief system goes around the information or feedback we get from the horse. So what does that mean? It means whatever we've done to the horse, whether I've removed a shoe, whether I've added a shoe, whether we've done wedges or we do packing, whatever it is, we need feedback from the horse. How is that horse moving? What is their temperament like? That is what's going to tell us what their level of comfort is.
Right.
And we are caretakers to them. They no longer live in the wild. We have to do what's best for them. And when I'm sure your wife has had some pretty bad spills on her horse. And when we look at it from a behavioral standpoint, they are simple prey animals that react to their environment. And so what that means to me is if they are not in comfort, which that's where we want them to be, to have a nice, safe ride with them. And when they're not in comfort, we have to do what it takes to achieve that. And if that is achieving through a steel shoe, through an Epona shoe, through barefoot, whatever it is that achieves the best case for that horse. That's what I'm all about.
Now, what style of riding do you do?
Endurance.
Okay, and explain endurance, because that's a new word to me. Endurance,
Oh, really?
yeah, I know eventing, I know dressage, I know hunter jumper, I know all those things. Endurance is a new word for me as far as an ability to train. When I think endurance, I think that's part of what I have to do in order to be a dressage or an inventor or something like that. Like I have to run 15 miles. Now, I'm not running 15 miles, but I'm just giving you an idea. Endurance, you're just running the horse in a straight line to give it some kind of breathing and cardio so it can do whatever's next. Explain endurance to me.
He does not understand.
What is that?
He does not understand.
I don't.
Okay. It's a chance to educate.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
True endurance is 50 miles or more horseback in one day. Within the endurance community, they have brought smaller distances for people that are getting their horse going, which could be anywhere from, 12 miles as an intro, 25, which is considered what they call limited distance, and then 50 miles, 75, and hundreds. And if you've ever heard, Travis, of Tevis, that's one of the hardest 100 miles in the U.S. In Northern California. And that would be a true endurance ride. And it's done in loops. So you have periods of time where you are out there on trail. You need to maintain a 5 mile an hour pace. And then you come in, you vet check, and then you have a hold. And the hold can be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, and you cannot go back out on trail. Then you can go back out on trail. You come back in, you vet check again. And the vet has several different things they're checking on your horse to make sure that they are fit to continue.
So from what you're telling me right there, what pops in my mind is, one, when you say endurance and it's a 50-mile ride, and I'm thinking marathon, like everyone wants to do a 5K, a 10K, that type of stuff. So essentially that's the horse version or the equine version of a marathon. Second of all, when you say that the horse comes in after, what'd you say, 5 miles or something like that for a vet check? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Whatever the distance.
Usually it's 10 to 15
Okay,
miles.
I'm sorry. 10 to I should listen to the show. I heard it's pretty good. That it sounds like it's like Indianapolis or NASCAR, where you bring the horse in, then he changed the tires. Zoom, zoom, zoom. No, you got the vet coming in and he's doing the heart rate, he's doing this, and then and hit the horse on the butt and boom, he's back out on the track. Is that essentially what, for layman's term, is that what the endurance race is?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Holy mackerel. Why would anyone want to do that? And I feel for the horses. That's 50 miles. I have a hard time walking down the driveway to get mail.
Well, and let's just add to it that you are limited because of your 5 mile an hour. You have to complete that 50 miler in about 12 hours.
And how do they clock that 5 miles an hour? Is it GPS, or do they have like checkpoints where someone's got to watch and this person left and they figured the distance between mile marker 1 and mile marker 2 should be between, a minute and a half or whatever that time frame is for 5 miles an hour?
For the few that I've done, you have a timer and you have your number. And so when you leave, you check out with that timer and they write down your time. And then when you come in, you check in with that timer. And so that's how they track your time.
So technically it's overall. It's not, you need to maintain 5 miles an hour between mile marker 1 and 2. But can you do like 3 miles an hour between mile marker 1 and 2, and then 10 miles an hour between 2 and 3? So
Yes.
it's an
Yes,
overall.
And that last bit, you want to slow it down because before your horse to get into the rest period, the heart rate has to be down to a certain point before they start counting your rest period.
So it's kind of like when you're relaxing and bringing yourself back down. So you don't want to bring a horse in at 90 miles an hour and then have the vet check come in. No, your horse has got to hang out here for a little bit.
Yep, you got it.
Well, there you go. I learned something new. Go ahead, Sarah.
That's what I enjoy doing, and it's almost like a form of meditation with your horse out on trail when there really isn't anybody else, and you're moving down the trail. You're there at a trot, 8 mile an hour trot, and you're just moving and going. It's just a lovely place to be.
Well, you have to be, to cover those distances and keep your horse happy and healthy. You've really got to be in tune with where your horse is mentally, physically, and everything else.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Now, would you think that the horses that do endurance races, Mike, and I'm going to ask you the same question as well. Do you think there's more stress on their body and their feet as to, not necessarily dressage, because that's not a very high impact, but it's a very, very mobile sport. Do you think there's more impact on the horse's body and frame on the endurance as to any other sport or any other category?
Is the question for me or Mike?
Either one. Whoever wants to answer, hit your buzzer.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, I worked with endurance teams some back in 2008, and I've got a handful of endurance horses I still work on. Proper conditioning, proper riding is everything. If they're not conditioned, you go out there and you just do an endurance race, you're beating them up pretty bad.
Well, and the reason why I bring this up is because you always hear the horror stories of like the Grand Prix. Everyone says that those horses are just push, and then the horses don't last that long. They're seeing at year 5, year 6, they're seeing the horses break down and stuff like that after winning, and all that stuff.
You're gonna see some. I mean, to build a good endurance horse is just like a good event horse. You take a lot of care doing it, and the horses your wife rides, they're not going to be endurance horses in any way, shape, or form.
No.
You could do it, and we'll find them later watching where the buzzards are circling. But they're these a lot of Arabians, not all Arabians, but a lot of Arabians in it. Horses that are bred to go the distance, and they're a different animal, and you usually have a different foot on them, and that's where they do pretty well, and I don't think there's that much problem with breakdown as long as someone is taking time to condition them properly. And
that's something I didn't even think of as far as the breed of the horse. I know that my wife rides a German Oldenburg,
right?
And I just thought horse, and I forgot. Yes, there are different breeds of horses that are meant to do other things. You don't want to have a Clydesdale running, dressage or anything like that. That's the only other horse I know. So, all right, guys, we're gonna take a quick little break, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna dive into the world of the Epona Mind Shoe Company that Sarah T represents. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
Did we do okay?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Okay. I wasn't asking you.
Oh. Who are you asking?
I was asking Sarah.
Oh, okay. Well, Sarah.
I miss doing endurance, so you get to talking about that, and I'm like, oh man, it's being out on trail and just moving down. And I have Arabians, so yes, I actually have a Tennessee Walker now, and it's really comes down to you want a horse that wants to move down the trail.
Right.
You can do it with the heavier bodied horses. You just you got to be really careful.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, we're gonna come.
Yeah,
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I actually have more problem with the breakdown, tendon ligament breakdown with dressage horses.
That's I was kind of leaning towards that. I know that there's more mobility issues that you worry about on a dressage horse as far as like tendons and stuff as to a endurance horse like Sarah's here, where it's just continuous.
Well, the fitness level of the endurance horse is drastically different than your dressage horse.
Yeah, I know. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk. Go ahead.
I'll say this too, your footing, or we have a few places here in Central Texas that the ground is really hard. And so, when you go to those particular rides, your fitness level, or have you done hard ride surfaces with a horse? Because if you just go out there and let's say you're in sand one weekend and then the next month you go to hard ground, if your horse isn't prepared for that, then you're probably going to have some sort of soft tissue damage.
Right. And vice versa. You go into the sand, the horse is accustomed to sand. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. When we go,
or is not accustomed to sand, something.
Not used to it.
Not used to it. Don't know what it is.
You ready? All right. Well, we're gonna. Mike, you ready?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
It's all right. I'll get them later.
It's great.
I'll get them later.
Great.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Make sure you follow him over on YouTube, and the way you do that is search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine over on YouTube. For every podcast we do have a matching video. You can see me waving to Mike waving to me, and joining us,
waving to Sarah.
And joining us here in the studio is Sarah Turowski, and she is a farrier from Texas. Now, you are also, being in Texas, you are also going to come across this eclipse that everyone's freaking out about because you're in Central Texas. Now, Are you worried about that at all? I mean, are you worried about that? Is it like, God with a magnifying glass going across the United States and burning all the ants across? Because that's what the way people are thinking about. Are you worried about this eclipse that goes by? And the two-part question to that, and this is where I get really dumb. They tell us as humans not to look at the sun.
So we're going to go do it.
Yeah. What about like horses and stuff? Because don't they have almost the same type of eye as we do? Do we worry about horses? Do we have to put blinders on the horses so they don't look up and go, why is it so dark out now?
They're all wearing welding helmets today.
Are they? Yes. So question one, are you worried about the eclipse? And second of all, are you going to put like the sleepy bedtime blinders on your horses so they don't look at the eclipse?
No, right. No,
I mean, honestly, it's a thought I had laying in bed this morning. I'm like, oh, we got the eclipse today. And I'm like, oh, I don't have any blinders on. And then because I do sleep with a sleep mask. And I go, well, what about, shut up. So I go, well, what about the horses? Because if they look up, and they look into the eclipse, isn't something going to happen to them too?
They're probably smarter than us.
Probably. So, Sarah, are you worried about that at all?
No, we may have overcast, so if I get to see it, great. If I don't, I don't. But given the opportunity, if it's visible, I'll take the opportunity. But no, I don't think our horses are going to know that that's where the darkness is coming from. They're just going to see it all around them and wonder what the heck is going on.
They're probably like our horses. They know as soon as the sun comes up, they start making their way down to the barn for feed time. And then when the sun's going down again, they reverse. They go right back up to it's feed time again. They're going to be like,
it's going to be feed time.
Yep. That's maybe what they'll think.
So joining us here on the broadcast here is Sarah Turowski, and you are a farrier in Texas. You've been a farrier for over 15 years now. Now, up until like 2017, you were all about having the horses having bare feet. And now you're telling me that you're part of being, you're part or a representative of the Epona Mind Shoe Company. Tell me how those two kind of collide together with you.
I will say it's one of my horses. He's 22. His name is Pip. I did not name him, but it seems to be a fitting name for him. We call him Perfect Pip. My 71-year-old mother rides him, and he is as safe as they come. So, and she just took up riding about 5 years ago. But when I pulled him out of shoes, we had problems, and he was in steel. We had problems years ago with his level of comfort. And after x-rays, it was determined that he had pedal osteitis. And he would do fine.
Hold on. Mike, okay. What is that?
Pedal osteitis?
Yes.
It is, itis is an inflammation of the pedal bone, meaning the coffin bone that's inside the hoof.
Okay.
And you can get some thinning and deterioration of the bone.
Okay.
Not a comfortable thing. Sometimes they need some help.
Okay. I'm sorry, Sarah. Sometimes
No, that's fine. And Mike, if you don't mind, I'll even go on
Please.
to say, the coffin bone, when you start having that regeneration of the bone, it never goes back. And then any of your soft tissues that are supposed to be attaching to everything just don't work the way they are supposed to. And so you wind up having areas where you have much thinner sole or sole that's compromised and can't do what it's supposed to do because of the degeneration of the bone. So, and that was his story. He was, when I tell people on can my horse be barefoot, I kind of have it as a flow chart is your horse pasture sound? And if the horse is pasture sound and comfortable barefoot, then we can deal with that. If the horse is not pasture sound, your horse needs shoes. That's just the bottom line. Some people that their horse is pasture sound, and then I know initially we had talked about whether horses should have shoes or not. My belief system is, for me, is that horses, don't shoot the messenger, but horses are not designed to be ridden.
No, they're not.
We can ride them, and there are things we can do to get them to a place where we can ride and they can be comfortable. And because I think that's such a huge responsibility, I think that if we are riding horses, we need to protect their feet when we swing a leg over. We're adding weight, we're adding our body's imbalances. So if one of us have a hip shorter than the other, then we get on a horse, and that's exactly how we ride them. And then they have to compensate for how we're leaning. So I think anything we can do to support them better for carrying us is the most important. So that's how I got into the shoeing, was because of Pip. He was not comfortable. I also had a client horse that at the time when I didn't have any shoeing skills, all of my horses that couldn't be comfortable barefoot went back to steel. And I am not here to bash steel. That's not what I do. My belief is that if a horse is comfortable in a composite or polyurethane shoe that adds a little bit more flexibility, that's what I'm on board with. So I just want to make clear, I'm not bashing any steel or aluminum. Sometimes that's the only option to get the horse comfortable.
So explain us the Epona shoes, or the Epona Mind Shoes, and what they actually do. Because from my understanding, from talking to Mike and stuff, it's a like a 3D printed shoe, or am I understanding that wrong?
It's designed from molds.
Okay.
So Monique Craig and John Craig, who are the owners of Epona Mind, Monique years ago, I think it was actually even mid 80s or 90s, and she met another farrier that helped her along with why her horses walked the way they did after shoeing. And it was frustrating for her because her eye would see mechanically how the horse would move before and after, and she was frustrated because she felt like it should be moving better. And so she designed the Epona shoes, which is like I said, a molded plastic, if you will, shoe that can be used as any other shoe, but I like to tell people too, it's the entire system. So to this day, Monique still does continued research as far as how the shoe should be set. She has developed a way that you palpate where P1 and P2 come together, and you follow the bony protrusions as far as using that instead of using the frog for setting the shoe. She found that the bony column is much more reliable in staying that way for a map for us. We've also looked at biomechanically how the entire horse moves as to where you're setting the shoe, because a lot of the times the approach is kind of separating the hoof from the horse. So when you're taking into account, and Mike, you even said it too, footfalls, that's definitely influenced by the body. And just another key piece into that, Monique is a big believer in types of body work for the horse, because once again, we have this athlete that is doing things that we're asking them to do, and they go into a dysfunctional, functional way of compensating what we're doing to them.
Now, how does the shoe work? Is it a slug, and you put it on there and you kind of trim it to fit like you would a steel, like you would hot shoe a horse or something like that, Mike, where you'd sit there and bang it and stuff? Is it a slug where it's just your horse's foot is size A or it's size B, depending on?
I don't think you can put those shoes in the forge, though.
No,
well, you can, but
they'll melt like the little army men. But but is it a shoe that can be adjusted with I just picture someone out there whittling it with an X-Acto knife and like a rat tail file or something like that. Is that how they're adjusted, or is it this horse needs this? I take a mold of the horse's foot, like in clay or plaster or something like that, and then I go and pour the mold, like when you get false teeth or something. I pour the mold to fit that horse by itself for that time.
So my anvil is my grinder.
Okay.
So I will grind a breakover when I size the shoe appropriately to that particular horse. I'll grind a breakover, or if I have a little bit more lateral medial that's sticking out from the hairline, then I'll go ahead and grind that in there. If I have more frog than what I need, I can grind into the bottom of the shoe to make sure there's enough room for the frog. So it starts out with, of course, the correct trim, sizing the shoe appropriately, using my grinder. Then I'll put packing material in the foot. Then I put a small bead of glue all the way around the outside of the shoe. And that way, when I set the shoe onto the foot, I'm able to put it exactly where the shoe needs to be. Because we all know if we're just start out nailing, we can adjust the shoe where we don't want it to adjust based on just putting 2 nails in. So when I do it with the glue, I can get it to set up right exactly where I want the shoe. And then I'll just kind of dig out a couple of nail holes because the glue will press up into the nail holes. So I'll dig that out. And then I will put 2 nails on each side of the horse's foot.
Well, you had a whole firework display behind you there for a second.
That's great.
I think one of your screens is if you do a thumbs up. Do a thumbs up like this real quick. Yeah, there it is. That's exactly what it is. There's a setting on your thing that'll do.
Now, okay. Are you using urethane or acrylics when you're putting the glue on?
Urethane.
Okay.
Yep. So it's a particular, it's very similar to the Equilox. The difference is that Monique has a little bit more, I say, give to the glue.
Right.
So it doesn't set up as hard, and it has a little bit more concussion absorption to it. And then there's another chemical she doesn't have them add that isn't good for us to breathe. So,
all right.
I mean, it's still strong, don't get me wrong, but.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a quick little break, and we're going to come back and dive more into these Epona shoes because I've got a bunch of questions. I've got some questions, okay?
Right.
So
Travis can come up with questions.
So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. I actually have no questions. I just want to tease for the next break.
You'll come up with something.
I'll come up with something. Who knows what comes out here?
The tough questions.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget to follow him over on Facebook. The way you do that is search Equine Dynamics Facebook. And Mike, you've been posting a whole bunch of different articles up there. I see them all the time. I like the articles that you post up there.
Articles?
They're really good articles.
Okay.
So whoever you got in the office working for you, it comes across your desk.
Staff.
The office staff. It comes across your desk. You put your little stamp on it. Take your anvil, hammer on it. That's
Smack
Mike.
it.
That's his approval, and then it goes to the Facebook page. So
Right.
make sure you follow him over on Facebook as well. And over to my far inside is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. And how are you, Sarah?
I'm great.
And
Doing great.
And joining us here in the studio is Sarah Turowski. She is a farrier from Texas. She's been a farrier for about 15 years now, and also a representative of Epona Mind Shoes. And she was also saying that the founders, the creators of the Epona shoes, has a shoe that has Bluetooth capability. And I say, hold on a minute. Hold on.
That's why you can listen to your radio while you're walking.
Is that what it is? Can I hook up I can listen to like Steely Dan and stuff while I'm riding on the endurance trails to give my horse a little smooth action going, keep that 5 miles an hour. Tell us about these shoes that they have coming out with Bluetooth capabilities.
Okay, well, they are actual boots that look like galloping boots that go on to the fetlock of the horse. And it is a partnership with Akiko, who is the company that created the Tendy boots. And for those that use Metron, they can create a bridge if they're doing case studies on particular horses, or if they want to get gait analysis, which is kind of a new thing within our market. I think we've got about 6 different companies that have made some sort of gait analysis for the horse. And that's what the Tendy boots, when they come into play, what they're doing is seeing how the horse is using themselves left to right, and how much ground forces are coming into play, how much fetlock drop, how much movement lateral medial is each particular foot doing. And when you compare it as an overall picture, it tells you how the horse is using themselves.
Now, I've seen a whole bunch, like when they make movies and stuff, and they try to recreate the action of a horse. And you've seen it when they go behind the scenes. There's always some guy at a computer, and he's got a little rollerball mouse, and you see a horse on the screen, but it's always like stick figures with these little dots on it. Can a camera, like, take a picture of a horse? Do they have anything out there like that where it can video record a horse's movement and get the same kind of data as far as if it's given enough pressure or it's not moving in the right direction? Do they have that out there?
Sure. I would think that there is. I don't know what company it is. I know there's another one that does gait assessment that even has monitors up at the pole and the withers. And that in turn with the leg and footfalls is giving you even more information at which way the horse's head and neck are coming up and down with the legs. So I think we're getting there to where it's more comprehensive on how a horse moves. Honestly, I'll tell you this, and I tell this to everybody, it would just be easier if somebody could teach an English for equines class, because if they could just tell us what the problem is or tell us what's going on, we can fix it for them. But instead, we have to use all this stuff to try to figure out what's going on and how to get them comfortable.
They're screaming at us pretty hard. We're just too dense to listen.
Sometimes they are.
I don't know if you've ever watched the TikTok videos. There's a dog, like a golden retriever, and he's got this pad of all these little buttons that he steps on. He's like, hello, play, hello, food, hello, play, outside, hi, mommy, hi. And he knows that we need to teach horses to do that. Ouch. Ow.
There you go. That's your next $1 million idea.
$1 million idea. Equine.
Yeah, I came up on the duck method. You understand that one, right?
No, what's the duck method? What's the duck method?
Walks like a duck, talks like a duck, must be a duck, right?
Yep.
Now you brought up Megatron. If people are using Megatron with these Akiko shoes, what is
Metron?
Metron. I'm sorry, Metron.
Yep. Metron was a AI created system that helps veterinarians with x-rays identifying different points of primarily the hoof. It does identify different parts of the body and can be used. They're actually even going into small animal for x-rays with dogs and cats. But primarily a lot of this was revolved around the hoof and getting you things like palmar angle on automated x-rays. The system does that. And so if you had a horse that you were maybe doing rehab on or were trying to get very comprehensive information on, you would do Metron. That's going to give you about 10 different parameters of the hoof. Along with Tendy Boots is going to give you how that horse is moving with that particular, shoeing setup or that particular compensation that they are doing. Then you're going to have a more comprehensive way of figuring out what's going on with the horse.
Now, Mike, have you seen this item, this Metron used before?
I have seen it a couple places, and it does lay out some numbers for you. As long as everything is set up good, it seems to work really good.
And when I say seen it, I mean, have you, someone brought you the description and stuff, and you were like, had to analyze it and use it to fix whatever.
It's got the numbers laid out for you.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
So is it a lot easier for you to use when you have this system?
It's good if you got accurate numbers.
Okay, so it's
that
the accuracy.
You're not guessing.
All right, guys, we're going to take one more little break and come back and wrap up the show. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
It goes by quick. I can talk more.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
you are a woman, Sarah.
No, that's not that. It's all up to this guy right here.
No, I know. I'm kidding.
She already knows I can sit there and talk to a fence post. I mean.
And the fence post would win. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you'd like Mike Stine to perform a clinic out at your location, the way you get a hold of him is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics. Fill out that little form. He'll pack up all the stuff. He's got Dolly, which is a small horse, a small skeleton of a horse. He can bring Peggy, which you can see over there in the studio right behind Mike. That's Peggy over there. And he'll come out to your location, your event. If you've got small kids, even middle-sized kids that want to learn about the anatomy of horses and stuff like that and what they can do to make horses' lives a little bit better, go over to Equine Dynamics, fill out that little clinics form, and if you'd like the podcast, the Equine Dynamics podcast, to perform a broadcast out at your location, we can do that as well. Just fill that form out. And over on my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
I'm doing well. And joining us here in the studio is Sarah Turowski. a farrier of over 15 years out in the Texas area. Hopefully at 3 o'clock or so, she'll have that eclipse flying over her. And she's also a representative of the Epona Mind Shoe Company. How are you, Sarah?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Now, Mike, we were talking all this tech stuff, and Sarah, kind of back me up. You're on my side, Sarah. You're on the tech side of the horse stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Mike, with all this tech stuff coming out, are you worried that you swinging a hammer and putting doing the shoes and stuff, is your job going to be eliminated by two things? One, because of the knowledge that you have, where you said, listen to what the horse is telling you. We've got all these computers and stuff that are actually listening to the horse and giving us data feedback. And also with the Epona shoes, they put the boot on or they take the mold, and there's no more swinging a hammer. It's just glue and it fits just right. And you take a little whittle now and then. Are you worried about technology taking over your job?
Actually, no. No, not at all. And I'll tell you.
Okay.
The tech stuff is good. Don't get me wrong. I work with steel and aluminum, a lot more steel than aluminum, but I do use some urethane products and occasionally. The endurance horses that I work on, when they're shoed, it wasn't the Epona, but we did use a flexible shoe for them, and it was, that type of shoe is really good on an endurance horse. For my event horses, it's a different deal. As far as all the techie equipment, it's great stuff. It adds to it. But when I have somebody bring a horse out, I've got about 30 seconds to decide what is and what isn't. And some of it, by the way, that horse walks in the barn. And some of that is just, you can't replace 40 years of looking at horses. And just because somebody's been doing it that long doesn't mean that they've been that obsessed about it.
Right, exactly like you have. All right, so what did we learn today, Mike?
What did we learn? What did we learn today, Sarah?
Sarah, what did we learn today? You've been a farrier for 15 years. How did you get started? And you're riding endurance horses. And one question I forgot to ask you is the Epona shoes. Can they work in the Epona shoes? Or is
endurance?
Yeah, well, any.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, is this a shoe that the horse can actually work in?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say this: the shoeing concepts that Mike has is it's invaluable, because the experience that he has into play on how to set a shoe, where to set a shoe, how to look at the entire column of the horse. It's like he'll never be replaced with that information. Whatever he puts on a horse's foot, even if he decided, I'll go ahead and use a grinder and I'll just nail on an Epona shoe.
The same thought pattern.
The same concept.
Right.
What's that?
Same thought patterns.
It is. It's exactly right. So, and I'm sorry. What did you say, Travis? Because I wanted to get into that.
And also how you got started in being a farrier. You said you have your own horses and stuff, and what leads you down the path, and what do you see yourself going on in the future, being a representative and being a farrier on your own?
Oh wow!
I know.
Helping more horses. That's really the biggest key to it, because I have several clients that the Epona shoes are the deciding factor on whether their horses sound for riding or not. And right. The people that I have that use the shoes, either that's the particular issue, so they have pathologies enough in their foot that the Epona shoes and the way that sets up is exactly what their horse needs. And then I have other set of clients that want the best for their horse, that's the most, I'm gonna say natural, but that supports the bony column, that really has the most concussion absorbing, because when we're looking at trail or pounding miles down the trail, a lot of people do look to the Epona shoes. So I would definitely say helping people that want to know how, and I say other farriers, even barefooters that want to use it as an option, because I hate that we have such a separation in our industry.
There really shouldn't be. There really shouldn't be. Our end goal is the same.
No, and for the people that want to just do barefoot, that's fine. There's still a farrier
Sure.
in my mind. For the people that only want to do steel, there's still a farrier in mind. We're all still working on horses. We're just finding what piece fits best for us to help that horse.
Right.
So I really want to help more horses in a way of helping more farriers and, you know, hoof care practitioners, whatever you want to call them, or yourself, learning what helps the horse better.
Right.
And if our listeners want to get a hold of you or find out any information about you, Sarah, how can they get a hold of you?
Wow, that's a great question. I am on contact through the Epona Mind website. I am a partner with them. I do have a Facebook page at Nexus Equine Care, so someone can find me there, or even on Instagram at Nexus Equine Care.
Mike, you have anything you want to add?
No, technology is always changing, materials are always changing, and I don't care how long you've done this, there's always more to learn, and there's always that horse that when you think you know it, you'll walk into the barn, that horse will tell you right quick, you're an idiot. You need to figure something out, right?
And on a side note, I feel that there is a generation of farriers that are coming up that don't have the knowledge of looking down a horse, and because they're relying more on, you know, the technology. Well, I don't need to look at that horse. I'll just slap it up to this, you know, digital scale or whatever it is. And the digital scale will spit out a little ticket that says, okay, left foot gets a 2 degree, the right foot gets a 4 degree insert with a, you know, 5 degree rollover. And that's what's going to happen. It's, I hate to say it, it won't probably happen in our lifetime, but I see it being a lost art form as to like writing cursive and things of that nature that, you know, the next generation of farriers are going to lose.
There are so many variables that you learn to pick up on that will make quick just why this one will, this one won't. The numbers are here, but then there's everything else that falls into it.
Yep.
All right, guys. Go ahead.
Sorry, that's definitely something that, and I tell people, just because textbook says this, the horse tells you something.
Horse didn't read that book, did it?
Exactly. So, and we can use those textbooks for guides, but then people like Mike, who have our years of experience, is the one that says, well, just because it says this doesn't mean that's the results you're going to get.
We'd like to thank Sarah Turowski for joining us here on the program on behalf of Mike Stine over there.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always a treat.
Thank you, guys.
My name is Travis, saying see you next week. Okay, we're clear. Cameras are still rolling just to let you know, but the audio portion's done, just in case we wanted to catch up on some stuff.
Good night, Ned.
No worries.
Any questions or anything, comments, concerns?